In a world where every brand screams, "Look at me," who still has the patience to listen? As people wake to notifications, work amidst streams of data, and fall asleep by the glow of screens, everything seems to be measured by clicks, views, and conversion rates. Yet, a silent question echoes through this clamor. What is marketing, truly? When people no longer trust advertisements, but are still moved by a compelling marketing story. Strategy isn't a book teaching how to run campaigns, it's a book teaching how to think asterisk. It's not about market domination, but about seeing the world through the customer's eyes. Simon Sinek's work on strategy is like a strategic map for an era where emotion and technology intertwine, where businesses no longer compete by shouting louder, but by understanding deeper. What's special is that this book doesn't just analyze dry digital tools like SEO, advertising, or CRM. It suggests something far more crucial. Every digital strategy is a human strategy. Every click is an unanswered question. Every view is a fleeting moment of attention. And every interaction is an opportunity for a brand to prove it truly understands who is on the other side of the screen. But do businesses still have the courage to slow down, to listen instead of merely optimizing? Is technology, created to connect, making us forget how to truly touch each other's emotions? This book doesn't offer answers. It simply places a hand on the reader's shoulder and asks, when everything can be measured, what still deserves our trust? Because ultimately, digital marketing isn't a game of budgets or algorithms. It's a dialogue between souls in a coded world. And only those who grasp this can turn technology into art. The world changed the moment people realized that telephone lines, printed newspapers, and street billboards were no longer enough to carry their voices far. When the first signal was sent over the internet, no one knew they were witnessing the birth of a new empire, where data became the lifeblood, where every click reflected the entirety of human psychology. Digital marketing emerged as a survival reflex of the era, as businesses understood that if they didn't adapt, they would vanish before realizing what was sweeping them away. Initially, the digital world consisted only of static websites, no sound, no community, no soul. But in just a few short years, an earthquake occurred. The first search engine appeared, the first banner ad lit up, and then Google opened a new door, shaping how people search. At that moment, traditional marketing, which had relied on billboards and fixed advertisements, began to tremble before the speed of algorithms. People no longer sought information. Instead, information found them. The actual difference between marketing and digital marketing isn't in the tools, but in how people view the world. If classic marketing is the art of persuasion, then digital marketing is the art of understanding. It's not just about selling, it's about listening to behavior, measuring emotions, and predicting the decisions of millions of connected individuals. When we talk about marketing, we always refer to the 4Ps: product, price, place, promotion. But in the digital world, these 4Ps transform. A product is no longer just an object, but an experience. Price is not merely a number, but perceived value. Place is no longer a physical store, but an interface. Promotion is no longer a one-way voice, but an endless dialogue between brand and people. Here, every click is a response, every view is a nod or a rejection, and every line of data is an untold story. Then Porter stepped onto the stage with his 5 competitive forces. But in the digital age, these forces suddenly changed shape. Competitors are no longer just the store across the street, but an anonymous platform on the other side of the globe. Consumers hold more power than ever. They can lift a business to heaven or sink it into the abyss with just a few lines of review. Meanwhile, the lines between suppliers, partners, and customers blur like smoke when everything is measured by data. The battle is no longer about products, but about brand experience, which is inherently an emotional asset. Now, brands must learn to exist in an environment where emotions are coded into algorithms. To know where they stand, strategists must draw emotional maps, positioning their brand in the customer's mind amidst a forest of rivals. But in this world, the map constantly changes. There is no fixed position in digital marketing, only ever-moving trajectories. And if everything can be measured, then customer value is no longer ambiguous. The metric of customer lifetime value becomes the strategic compass. It doesn't ask how many people have bought, but for how long one person will bring value in each decision. We are forced to look beyond immediate revenue figures because the core isn't about selling once, but about retaining trust forever. Segmentation becomes the art of understanding no longer just about regions or age groups, but about behavior, emotional drivers, and lifestyles. Each individual is a unique melody, and the digital marketer's task is to learn to hear each note to compose a symphony called brand. The deeper the segmentation, the more precise the message, and the truer the value. From there, the BCG matrix appears like a strategic chessboard, with stars, cash cows, dogs, or question marks. All represent a product's position in its life cycle. But in digital, this chessboard changes daily. A product that's a star today could become a dog tomorrow if an algorithm pushes it out of search results. Survival no longer depends on market share, but on adaptability. The digital world isn't just a technological network, it's a mirror reflecting human behavior. Every line of data, every access chart, every click tells a small piece of a social story. Marketing in its purest form is the art of storytelling with facts. And when these stories are gathered, we begin to clearly see that digital is not a branch of marketing, but its very heart. That's when businesses realize that digital isn't just a tool, but a way of life. It compels them to put the customer at the center, to accept the truth that every decision, no matter how small, leaves a trace online. The new world has no room for complacency, only for those who know how to listen, learn, and change. As we stand at the threshold of this era, perhaps the most terrifying thing isn't technology, but outdated thinking. Those who still believe marketing is just advertising, that communication is about shouting loudly, will gradually disappear. But those who understand that marketing now is the art of creating empathy between data and humanity will be the ones writing the new chapter of our time. The business world once believed that a clear vision, a strong team, and a good product were enough to survive. But then technology advanced like an unstoppable wave, and every seemingly perfect plan suddenly became fragile in a world driven by speed and data. To go far, businesses must immerse themselves in the digital flow, allowing their digital strategy to synchronize with the rhythm of their business strategy. Any plan built in isolation will be out of sync, like a musician playing out of tune in an orchestra. Everything begins with people. When the customer becomes the center, all concepts of product, brand, and revenue must be redefined. No longer anonymous buyers, but vibrant individuals with behaviors, needs, beliefs, and emotions. A digital strategy is truly effective only when it listens to the silent voices of customers. This understanding cannot be borrowed from data. It's forged through journeys of observation, analysis, experimentation, and empathy. But for digital strategy to truly integrate into the business's lifeline, internal consensus is needed. Business models, vision, cultural layers within the organization must align towards a single point. If leadership follows instinct while the digital team follows algorithms, the business will fracture from within. A unified vision is a prerequisite because digital doesn't exist externally. It lives within every decision, every process, every way we interact with customers. However, not everyone is ready for this change. When technology floods in, many businesses realize they lack the language to converse with it. They are trapped by invisible barriers, outdated technology, insufficient skills, limited budgets, or worse, antiquated mindsets. This isn't a technical problem. It's a cultural one, a culture of fear of making mistakes, fear of trying, fear of changing. In a digital environment where mistakes are valuable data, such fear equates to death. Budget, often a measure of trust, becomes a real test. Many leaders want digital to succeed, but are afraid to invest. They forget that digital isn't an expense but an investment in the future. An organization can only go far when it's willing to view failure as a stepping stone to knowledge, just as technology and digital strategy require resources, time, and patience to develop. Additionally, regulations and legal frameworks form a second wall. When every action is recorded, privacy and security become sensitive territory. Any business that disrespects personal data will sooner or later pay the price. Balancing personalization and privacy is the greatest challenge of this era, where transparency is a prerequisite for survival. In this landscape, digital professionals are not just marketing specialists. They are standing between two worlds, the old world of slow processes and the new world of light speed. They must persuade, connect, and build bridges between these two shores. They must learn to speak the language of leadership as well as the language of data. More importantly, they must keep the flame of creativity alive within systems increasingly reliant on machines. There are no digital businesses, there are only businesses that exist in the digital age. A successful digital plan doesn't come from inspiration but from structure. Everything starts with the question, what do we want to achieve? Goals must be clear, measurable, and aligned with a long-term vision. Then we break it down into phases: discovery, planning, execution, and evaluation. Each phase brings new questions. Who is responsible? What's the budget? What are the risks? What are the expected outcomes? A digital strategy isn't an idea. It's a sequence of orderly actions, continuously measured and improved. In the planning journey, leaders must know when to dream and when to be pragmatic. Dreams are a source of inspiration, but only tightly controlled plans reach their destination. We need to set big goals but break them down into small, measurable actions. Each step is the heartbeat of the strategy, how a business keeps itself vibrant amidst chaos. And when it comes to measurement, numbers are indispensable. A digital plan cannot rely on feelings. It must be data-driven, with budget forecasts, resource calculations, and clearly defined KPIs. All these are ways a business transforms vision into reality. The more detailed the plan, the higher the adaptability. Because in the digital world, change is the only constant. Then one day, amidst that plan, a crucial point emerges: online presence. Without presence, there is no voice. And SEO, search engine optimization, is the first compass for businesses to find their place in the labyrinth of the internet. It's not just a technique, but a philosophy of seeing and being seen. An unoptimized website is like a store without a sign. No matter how good the product, customers won't know where to find it. SEO begins with research, with understanding what customers search for, say, and think when typing keywords into a search engine. Then comes the technical aspect: website structure, page loading speed, mobile friendliness, user experience. Each element is a connecting thread between the business and the user, and if one thread breaks, the entire network weakens. But more crucial than all is content. Content is the soul of SEO and the soul of a brand. An article might attract thousands of visitors, but only valuable content keeps them engaged. Google changes its algorithm hundreds of times a year, but one principle never changes: right for humans, not for machines. In that world, businesses that balance technology and emotion, data and creativity, will be the silent winners. SEO isn't just a ranking race. It's a journey to understand how people seek meaning in an endless world of information. From classic marketing foundations to a complete digitalization plan, digital strategy is not just an intellectual construct, but a revolution in perception. It doesn't teach us how to promote products, but how to see the world through the customer's eyes. That's when businesses stop talking about themselves and start listening. As people enter the age of personal data and artificial intelligence, the boundaries once considered fixed in marketing begin to dissolve. Each person is now a small universe, carrying within them behaviors, preferences, habits, and countless digital signals that businesses can listen to. Personalization becomes the soul of modern strategy, no longer a luxury option, but a condition for survival. Personalization isn't about attaching a customer's name to an email. It's the ability to understand what they want before they even say it. It's how an automated system recommends products based on past behavior, or how a website changes its interface simply to match the visitor's pulse. True personalization is when every interaction feels private, when customers feel not just served, but understood. To reach that level, businesses need a comprehensive customer picture, a single customer view, where all fragmented data is pieced together into a unified profile. When we understand who is on the other side of the screen, every marketing campaign, every piece of content, every service becomes meaningful. Digital, at this point, is no longer a medium of communication, but a mirror reflecting human behavior. From there, the narrative shifts to a seemingly old-fashioned but never outdated topic: customer service. In the analog world, service was a voice on the other end of the phone, a smile behind the counter. In the digital world, it's a social media response, a chatbot operating through the night, an email answered within minutes. In this space, customers no longer talk *to* a business, but with * a system that knows how to listen. The principles of service remain unchanged: respect, speed, transparency. But now they must be redefined in an environment where every small error is magnified, where a single comment can spread to millions. Businesses no longer control their own narrative, they can only control how they react. And it is this reaction that truly shapes a brand's image. Service channels have become multi-layered: email, social media, mobile apps, instant messaging platforms. Each channel demands its own language, its own speed. A few hours' delay in a Twitter response can mean a PR crisis, but if handled correctly, these channels become opportunities for a brand to demonstrate sincerity. A timely apology holds more power than a $1 million advertising campaign. Parallel to this is the rise of content strategy in an information-saturated world. Content is not just words, it's how a brand builds trust. It goes beyond creating articles or videos. It encompasses the entire journey from idea to distribution. A good content strategy doesn't talk about the product, but tells the story of the human values behind it. Content, at a strategic level, is how a business shapes its identity in the customer's mind. A brand might survive on advertising, but it is loved only through its content. Every article, every image, every line of text is a seed planted in the reader's mind. If nurtured correctly, those seeds will grow into trust, the most enduring asset a brand can possess. To measure the vitality of content, strategists must rely on data. This is where analytics and reporting become the compass of the digital world. Data not only narrates the past, but also predicts the future. It reveals what makes people pause, what makes them leave, what makes them trust. But data also has its limits. It tells us what happened, but not always asterisk why. Therefore, the art of the marketer is to combine the rationality of data with human intuition. Tools can count every view, every click, every behavior. But only those with vision can understand the bigger picture, the link between emotion and action. A report isn't just numbers, it's a roadmap for strategic decisions in this world. Every marketer must learn to read data as if reading human psychology. And when all is ready, the final step is to present the strategy. A plan, no matter how perfect, is meaningless if it isn't accepted. This is where the art of persuasion speaks not with flowery words, but with reason, evidence, and vision. Leaders need to understand why this strategy exists, what problem it solves, what value it brings to the organization. Presenting strategy is the art of making others see the future through your eyes. A good presentation doesn't just list budgets and figures. It tells the story of the journey from understanding the market, empathizing with customers, overcoming obstacles, to designing a self-operating and evolving system. Each part of the strategy is a chapter in that story. And the storyteller, the digital professional, must make everyone believe that it's not just a plan, but a promise of the future. When all the pieces are connected, we realize that digital marketing is no longer a separate department. It's the bloodstream flowing through the entire corporate body. Digital strategy is the art of connecting people, technology, and meaning. It not only generates revenue, but also transforms how businesses exist and develop by understanding people. All algorithms will change, all platforms will become obsolete, but humanity's need to be understood will not. Therefore, at its deepest level, marketing is not technology, but anthropology, the eternal story of using the language of machines to touch human hearts. That's the moment when businesses stop trying to stand out and start trying to be meaningful. And in that world, digital strategy is no longer a communication strategy, but a survival strategy. A reminder that in every era, what connects people is not advertising, but truth. The digital world didn't begin with inspiration, but with a survival need. As people drown in a sea of data where every click is recorded, every glance becomes a trace, a silent race unfolds. Whoever understands human intent first will win. From there, paid search emerged as a sharp weapon of the era. It's not about who pays the most, but who can read the language of people faster and more accurately. In the space of search engines, where billions of queries appear daily, each keyword is a door leading to a specific psychology. Someone typing, "buy running shoes," isn't just looking for a product, they're looking for the feeling of confidence when they run. Someone searching for vintage bedside lamp isn't just buying an item, they're looking to define a lifestyle. Paid search exists to touch the intent hidden behind the words. Its strategy isn't about dominating everything, but about choosing the right moment, the right person, the right context. An effective campaign begins with research, but its success lies in the ability to see what the data doesn't explicitly state. Good marketers don't chase algorithms, they control them, because in this world, algorithms can calculate, but only humans can understand desires. When an ad appears on a search page, the dialogue begins. If it shouts too loudly, users leave. If it speaks at the right moment, addressing the right need, users pause. Paid search isn't about crowding the screen, but about the art of appearing as a natural answer to what people need. And to do that, marketers must be analysts, storytellers, and psychologists all at once. The structure of this strategy is a chain of actions precise down to every detail. Keyword research is the foundation, but writing ad copy is the soul. Every description, every headline, every number must be carefully considered. Then comes the bidding phase, where businesses compete not just with budget, but with relevance. An ad written with the right psychology can outperform a competitor with 10 times the budget. That's the beautiful paradox of paid ads. Sometimes victory belongs not to the strong, but to the understanding. As automation tools gradually take over, the question arises, do humans still have a role in this game? The answer is yes. Because while artificial intelligence can optimize data, it cannot yet replace human intuition, the kind that recognizes that sometimes users don't know what they want until they see it. Paid search, therefore, is where humans and machines learn to understand each other, where every click is a lesson in behavior. But paid search is only half the picture. When people started to tire of text ads, the world shifted to another form, one where emotion precedes reason: display advertising. That's the moment when images, colors, sounds, and motion became the new language of marketing. From the first banners on the web to subtle short videos flooding content feeds, display advertising is no longer about intruding into someone else's space, but an effort to become a natural part of it. Display inherently possesses a storytelling instinct. It doesn't say buy, it says feel. An image can evoke stronger emotions than 1,000 words. A video can make people pause for mere seconds. And in those few seconds, the brand etches itself into their minds. Display advertising isn't just about presence, it's the art of creating memories. Then programmatic technology appeared, transforming the entire advertising space into an automated marketplace. Every time a web page loads, an invisible auction occurs in an instant. Hundreds of brands compete for each display spot, and an automated system selects the most relevant ad. The world of advertising shifted from manual human purchasing to machine-driven decision-making. But even if the speed has surpassed human perception, strategy must still be shaped by humans, because no algorithm truly understands the emotional impact that art provides. A beautiful ad doesn't just have a high click-through rate, it leaves an afterglow. A successful banner doesn't just appear to the right person, but at the right mood. Smart businesses don't buy many ads, they buy the right moment. And that moment, when image, emotion, and viewer intent converge, is where marketing magic happens. Display doesn't stand alone. It integrates with paid search, social media, content, and CRM within a unified system. Each channel plays its own role, but all converge towards one goal: making the brand a natural part of the customer's digital life. There are no longer boundaries between advertising and experience, between message and action, only a continuous flow of awareness, emotion, and decision. Both paid search and display show that digital is no longer a place to flaunt technology, but a stage for humans to understand the true nature of communication. Advertising is no longer noise. It's a way to create rhythm in the viewer's mind. When done right, they don't interrupt the experience, but make it more complete. That's the first step of the implementation journey. When data is not just an analysis tool but emotional material, when humans learn to use technology to speak from their hearts, and in that world, data is no longer just numbers, but stories. In an era where every person carries an invisible microphone, the world of social media has become the largest public square in human history. There, every brand has a chance to speak. But only those brands that know how to listen will be heard in return. When social media emerged, marketing was no longer a monologue. It became an unending conversation where the customer's voice is more powerful than any advertising campaign. Initially, businesses viewed social media as a promotional channel where they could post messages, display logos, and hope for attention. But very quickly, they realized that users didn't want to talk asterisk to asterisk a brand. They wanted to talk asterisk to the humans behind the brand. That's when marketing was forced to learn to speak with a human voice. No longer perfect slogans, but sincere shares, genuine reactions, unprogrammed emotions. A social media post might cost nothing, but it can make or break a brand's image. The power of virality magnifies every action, no matter how small. A delayed response, an insensitive comment, or a recorded mistake call can turn into a fire that burns down years of built-up reputation. Therefore, social media is not just a communication tool, but a brand's most honest litmus test. Social media strategy doesn't start with the question, what should we post? But with who are we in the eyes of the public? Each platform is its own world. Twitter for dialogue, Instagram for visual emotion, LinkedIn for knowledge, TikTok for spontaneous creativity. Businesses cannot use one voice for all, nor can they force others to listen to them in the same way. The power of social media lies in adaptability, not control. When a brand is online, it must learn to integrate as a genuine member of the community. Users don't want to hear businesses talk about themselves, they want to hear businesses talk about what they care about. A good content strategy, therefore, doesn't just promote products but reflects community values. It sparks conversations, evokes emotions, and transforms the brand into a trusted friend. But social media is also the most challenging arena. Everything happens in real time, news spreads faster than reactions. A single complaint can become a tidal wave in minutes. Therefore, reputation management is no longer the task of the PR department, but the responsibility of the entire organization. When a customer complains publicly, it's not a crisis but an opportunity to demonstrate true value. A brand that dares to listen and engage in open dialogue is always stronger than one that tries to hide. Behind the scenes, there's a meticulously measured system: average response time, first contact resolution rate, satisfaction levels, recommendation scores. Each metric is a heartbeat of the relationship between business and customer. But like any heartbeat, these numbers only gain meaning when we understand the emotion behind them. Customer service cannot be evaluated solely by performance, but by the feeling it leaves in the hearts of those served. Meanwhile, technology opens another door: paid social media advertising. It allows precise targeting of individuals based on behavior, age, location, and interests. But if misused, it turns social spaces into a noisy marketplace. Therefore, the art of paid social isn't about intruding, but about appearing naturally. Effective ads don't annoy viewers, they make them nod in recognition. Yes, this is what I was thinking. Simultaneously, social listening becomes the sixth sense of a business. It doesn't just measure likes or shares, but reads the collective emotion. With millions of conversations happening every minute, data becomes the bloodstream nurturing understanding. Businesses know when they are loved, when they are doubted, and what is changing in customers' minds. Listening in this world is the only way to speak correctly. However, what makes social media magical isn't metrics or algorithms, but the ability to connect. A brand can buy advertising, but it cannot buy trust. Trust only comes when people feel they are conversing with an emotional entity. Therefore, the greatest brands don't just appear on social media, they asterisk live there. They laugh, they react, they make mistakes, and they correct them. They become human. A brand is no longer a logo, but a personality. It has its own voice, its own demeanor, its own beliefs and limits, and like people, brands must mature over time. A brand that dares to express opinions, to speak out about social values, to admit mistakes when wrong, that is a respected brand. The irony is that in a world driven by technology, what connects people is still emotion. Social media, though flooded with data, is ultimately a story about human-to-human connection. Successful brands aren't successful because they have big budgets, but because they understand that trust cannot be bought. It can only be built with sincerity. Looking back at that journey, we see that social media didn't just change marketing, it changed the very nature of business. It forces organizations to be more transparent, flexible, and humane. And that is also the bridge leading to a new phase, where customer experience doesn't just happen on screen, but permeates the entire journey of their interaction with a brand. Because after building a voice, businesses need to learn how to create a asterisk feeling asterisk. And that's when user experience, UX, becomes the soul of the digital age. When every brand is present in the digital space, what makes a name remembered is no longer its appearance, but the feeling it leaves behind. User experience becomes the ultimate boundary between interest and indifference, between love and abandonment. No campaign is strong enough to save a bad experience. Conversely, a good experience can turn an ordinary customer into a loyal advocate without needing ads. Experience doesn't begin on a website or app. It starts the moment a user hears the brand name, from the colors, communication style, response speed, to the feeling of security when making a purchase. All combine into a seamless stream of emotion. Good digital professionals don't ask, "Do we have a good product yet?" But "Do customers feel at ease yet?" Because experience isn't an interface, it's emotion. To achieve that, businesses must re-examine their entire structure. A digital strategy is truly effective only when every department aligns towards the user. That's the beginning of digital transformation, a process of changing how an organization thinks, acts, and feels. Digital transformation isn't about buying new technology. It's about learning to live in a new culture where data and emotion are inseparable. For years, companies tried to digitize every process, but they forgot the most crucial element: people. A website might be perfectly optimized, but if the team doesn't understand the customer, the experience will still crumble. Therefore, true digital transformation begins when a business acknowledges that technology is merely a tool, and true value comes from understanding what makes people feel satisfied. From there, the next journey unfolds: customer relationship management, CRM. If experience is the present, then CRM is the memory. It preserves every trace of the relationship between brand and customer. From the first interaction to repeat visits, every access, every response, every purchase creates a personal story. CRM collects these fragments of memory and transforms them into behavioral maps, so businesses not only know who is buying, but also why asterisk they are buying. But collecting data is just the first step. The true power of CRM lies in its ability to predict the future through behavioral analysis. Predictive models help identify who is about to leave, who is ready to buy more, who needs attention. From there, retention strategy is no longer reactive, but proactive. Retaining customers isn't done with promotions, but with the feeling of being valued. Loyalty programs are born from this very mindset, not to buy loyalty, but to nurture it. A loyal customer isn't loyal because of reward points, but because they feel connected. They know the brand understands them, remembers them, and respects their choices. CRM, therefore, is no longer just software, but the heartbeat of the organization, a heartbeat that keeps the relationship between people and brand alive longer than any advertising campaign. The marvel is that when everything works correctly, marketing disappears. Customers no longer feel advertised to, they just feel cared for. They return not because they were persuaded, but because they want to. That is the highest destination of digital strategy, creating an ecosystem where trust regenerates itself, where brand and customer grow together. But to achieve that, businesses must learn to slow down in an overly fast world. They must learn to listen instead of reacting. They must understand that not everything is measured by numbers. A report might show performance, but it can never measure trust. A chart might show conversion rates, but it can never convey satisfaction. And so, digital professionals must have the heart of an artist, knowing how to listen to what the data doesn't say. As technology advances, a silent danger creeps in. People gradually become dependent on automated systems. But no algorithm is subtle enough to feel a customer's disappointment when waiting too long for a response, or their joy upon receiving a timely thank you email. A successful digital strategy is not a victory for technology, but a harmony between technology and compassion. Every relationship begins with attention, is strengthened by experience, and endures only with trust. CRM and user experience are two sides of the same coin. One creates moments, the other remembers them. When these two elements converge, businesses no longer sell products but sell emotions. They no longer promote brands but nurture relationships. And looking back at this entire journey, we see that digital strategy is no longer a series of disconnected tools, it's a living network. It connects paid search, display, UX, and CRM into a single flow. Each part plays its own role, but all tell one common story, the story of how people use technology to understand each other. In an age where every decision is driven by data, people still yearn to be seen as individuals, not numbers. That's the paradox of the digital world. We create endless technology to understand customers, but if we forget humanity, every strategy becomes meaningless. Therefore, the journey of modern marketing begins with a seemingly simple, yet most elusive concept: true personalization. Personalization is no longer the magic trick of name-tagged emails, but the way each person is treated as a unique entity. Since users started leaving digital footprints, businesses have learned to observe without intruding, to listen without disturbing. Data on web browsing behavior, purchase history, location, access time, devices used all combine to create a behavioral picture. But data is just raw material. Understanding is the art. There are 3 layers of personalization. At the first layer, users have the right to define their own experience. They choose the frequency of information, preferred topics, and desired content formats. At the second layer, the system proactively analyzes behavior to self-adjust, recommending suitable products, adjusting interfaces, or changing content order based on interaction history. At the final layer, personalization becomes a strategy where every touchpoint from advertising to service, from website to store, is connected into a single customer picture. That is the destination of a single customer view, where businesses no longer see fragmented data, but a human being with a past, present, and future potential. But to reach that level, technology alone is not enough. Personalization requires ethics. All data must be used with respect, transparency, and consent. A correct personalization strategy doesn't make users feel tracked, but makes them feel understood. When technology knows how to listen with a human heart, data becomes care, not control. Personalization is a promise, and customer service is how a business keeps that promise. A brand can promise a wonderful experience, but just one delayed response, and that promise evaporates. In the digital world, where everyone can speak up with just a few taps, customer service has become the brand's direct battlefield. There are no longer boundaries between marketing and customer care, because every conversation is marketing and every service interaction is an opportunity to build reputation. Good service begins with clarity. Users must know what they can expect, for how long, and through what means. Support systems must be consistent across all channels: email, chat, apps, or social media. But most importantly, it's the brand's voice, not a robot, but a human. Speed is necessary, but sincerity is what retains trust. A timely apology, a kind response, can turn a customer into an advocate. No one remembers how long they waited, they only remember how they were treated. Leading businesses understand that service isn't just about solving problems, it's about creating experiences. From traditional support centers to chatbots, from automated emails to social media responses, every channel needs to speak the same language, the language of care. When a customer complains publicly, it's not a crisis but an opportunity to demonstrate true values. A brand that dares to listen and engage in open dialogue is always stronger than a brand that tries to evade. Behind the scenes is a meticulously measured system: average response time, first contact resolution rate, satisfaction level, recommendation score. Each metric is a heartbeat of the relationship between business and customer. But like any heartbeat, these numbers only gain meaning when we understand the emotion behind them. Customer service cannot be evaluated solely by performance, but by the feeling it leaves in the heart of the person served. When personalization and service become one, the brand becomes trustworthy. Each interaction is no longer a transaction but an ongoing conversation. Customers are no longer just served, they are accompanied. This relationship isn't measured by purchases, but by the time they are willing to stay. And that is the core of the digital era. Businesses no longer compete with products, but with their level of human understanding. Looking back, the journey from data to trust is the most complex, yet also the most beautiful, because it forces businesses to relearn what seemed obvious. That on the other side of the screen is still a human being with real emotions, real expectations, and a desire to be seen for who they truly are. The digital world is nourished by content, but not all content has a soul. There are articles that merely fill space, videos that only seek attention, but there are also stories that make people pause, think, and remember. Content is no longer a peripheral task, but a central strategy. It is the heartbeat of the brand, where ideas transform into belief and belief into action. A meaningful content strategy doesn't start with the question, what should we post? But with, why is this worth saying? Every piece of content must have a purpose: to educate, inspire, solve a problem, or provoke action. When every line of text, every image carries a clear intention, the brand will no longer speak aimlessly. A weighty message always resonates farther than 1,000 meaningless posts. To achieve that, businesses must build an operational structure like a newsroom, complete with strategy, processes, publishing schedule, quality standards, and a team that maintains a consistent brand voice. Content is not just created, it is edited, categorized, and validated. A great idea can come from anywhere, but its true value is only proven after going through a rigorous selection process. And most importantly, content must be tied to business goals. Every story told must lead to a specific action. As the market and technology constantly change, content auditing becomes a mirror reflecting the business's honesty. It helps identify what is still valuable, what is outdated, what truly interests customers. Brands that understand the value of content auditing often evolve faster because they are not afraid to discard what is obsolete to retain the core. But even excellent content is meaningless if not distributed correctly. An effective distribution strategy combines 3 pillars: owned media, channels under control like websites, email, apps; earned media, natural shares, reviews, word of mouth; and paid media, paid advertising. When these 3 elements blend, content is not just seen, but also trusted. Distribution isn't about pushing messages out, but about taking the story to the right people, at the right time when they are ready to listen. Content and data are inherently 2 different languages, but when combined, they create a learning system. Every view, every share, time spent on a page all are emotional indicators. When this data is analyzed, content is no longer an intuitive art, but a precise science. And that's when analytics and reporting step into the heart of digital strategy. In the world of data, every action leaves a trace, but not every trace is meaningful. A number is only truly important when it tells the hidden story behind it. Analytics isn't just about measurement, it's the ability to see the connection between behavior and emotion. Modern measurement systems can track customer journeys across multiple devices and platforms, recreating the entire process from awareness to purchase. In parallel, attribution modeling becomes a tool to help businesses understand which channels truly deliver value. Each model, from last click to linear or position-based, offers its own perspective on evaluating the customer journey. There is no perfect model, only the one suitable for specific objectives. The art here is to read numbers within context, because data can tell the truth, but it can also mislead if separated from the larger story. Data is not just for analyzing the past, but also for guiding the future. Every report is not an end, but a starting point for a new cycle of learning. A good report doesn't just display numbers, it tells the story behind those numbers. It helps the team understand what is working, what needs to change, and why. From that, the organization develops a culture of continuous learning, a vital characteristic in an era where every strategy can become obsolete in just a few months. However, within this sea of metrics, there's a danger. People are easily drawn into what can be measured, forgetting what truly matters. Not every value can be expressed in a chart. A campaign might generate millions of impressions but fail to build trust. Conversely, a small act, like a sincere reply to a customer, can change how people perceive an entire brand. Data needs a heart to be useful. When content and data intersect, marketing reaches a deeper level. It doesn't just transmit information, it builds collective knowledge. Every campaign is an experiment, every report a roadmap for the next step. When businesses dare to learn from mistakes, content gradually becomes refined, and data becomes a guiding voice. Content and analytics are not opposing forces but complementary. One creates emotion, the other measures that emotion scientifically. And when both work in harmony, businesses not only know how to speak, but also how to listen. That's the moment digital marketing shifts from skill to understanding, from working to display to working to comprehend. A strategy, no matter how perfect, can die in silence if not communicated correctly. The art of strategic presentation is the final bridge between thought and action. There, data becomes the language, and emotion becomes the motivation that makes others believe in what you see. In the meeting room, where light reflects off the screen and all eyes are on you, no one is truly waiting for numbers. They are waiting for a vision. And you, the storyteller of the digital age, must make them see the future as if they have already lived it. Presenting strategy is not listing results but recreating a journey. Every chart, every example, every explanation must contribute to telling the story of why the business exists in this era and why digital is not just a tool but a survival instinct. When you talk about budget, don't speak in dry numbers, but in the exchange between risk and opportunity. When you talk about ROI, don't just say, "We will increase revenue." Say, "We will understand our customers better." A strategy is accepted not because it's correct, but because it makes others see themselves within it. Every plan faces skepticism. Some think digital is expensive, some fear change, some don't believe data can lead the way. Your task is not to convince everyone, but to connect with those who share the vision. You need to build allies, those who understand that innovation is not a threat but an opportunity. When they stand with you, the strategy will no longer be a mere plan, but a movement. In this process, storytelling plays a central role. A successful strategy must have a narrative arc, opening with a problem, developing with opportunities, peaking with solutions, and concluding with tangible results. Clarity ensures listeners don't have to struggle to understand, but naturally empathize. The truer the story, the greater its persuasive power, and if it contains emotion, it will live longer than any presentation slide. Another often underestimated factor is transparency about risks. No strategy is perfect, and acknowledging limitations doesn't weaken the vision. On the contrary, it strengthens trust. When you say, "We might fail at this point if we don't learn fast enough," you are speaking as a leader, not an advertiser. That sincerity makes data more human, and people will trust those who dare to speak the truth. In this context, the website, the hub of all digital activities, is presented as a living entity. It's not just an information channel, but a place where all experiences converge. Search, advertising, content, CRM, data all meet here. Every pixel, every click contributes to telling the brand story. When leaders see this, they no longer view the website as an expense, but as a strategic asset. And then, when everything is connected, the entire digital strategy emerges as a unified ecosystem. Paid search brings customers in, social media keeps them engaged, content builds trust, UX makes them comfortable, CRM helps them return, and analytics teaches us why it all happens. All move like a living organism, where data is the nervous system and humanity is the heart. At this point, your task is no longer to persuade, but to inspire. Show them the big picture. That digital is not a project, but a never-ending journey. Talk about how every member of the organization has a role in this strategy, whether they work in marketing, production, or service. Make them feel they are part of the change. When people believe they are contributing to something greater, the strategy will naturally unfold. Ending this journey, digital strategy is no longer a series of disconnected techniques or tools. It becomes a philosophy for business operations, a way of seeing the world where data, creativity, and humanity merge into one. In that world, businesses don't just sell products but create experiences. They don't just seek profit but create value. They don't just chase trends but learn to adapt. Strategy, at its deepest level, isn't about technology, it's about people. It teaches us how to listen, how to observe, how to react, and above all, how to understand that every small decision contributes to shaping the future. A successful strategy isn't one that produces the biggest results, but one that makes people change how they see the world around them. And that is the ultimate gift digital offers, the ability to make businesses more humane in an increasingly mechanized world. When technology is used to amplify compassion instead of replacing it, marketing is no longer a pursuit of attention, but the art of seeking understanding. This book doesn't teach how to run ads or provide formulas for increasing sales. It quietly points out something seemingly simple, yet few have the patience to grasp. Every strategy, no matter how sophisticated, begins with the ability to understand people. No technology can save a mindset detached from emotion. No data becomes valuable if it isn't used to build trust. What we learn here is that the evolution of marketing is not a journey of machines, but a journey of conscious growth. Digital is merely a magnifying glass for what we already are. If we are superficial, the strategy will be loud and hollow. If we are sincere, it will be deep and sustainable. Technology doesn't create a soul for a business. It only amplifies the soul that already exists. Perhaps the most profound question isn't how to get others' attention, but how to be worthy asterisk of that attention. When every brand can speak, the real question is, are you saying anything worth hearing? And in that endless sea of data, do you have the courage to ask about what data cannot measure trust, kindness, and humanity?